Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon for Recovery to Practice. We apologize for getting started a little late. We had a minor technical glitch, which our top drawer tech team was able to address very, very quickly. My name is Lori Curtis, and I'm your host today for our webinar entitled Integrating Community Resources into Person-Centered Plans. After a short overview about SAMHSA and the Recovery to Practice team, we would like to get our webinar started. I would also like to thank our presenters, Debbie Fishta and Anita Jackson and Denae Ramos-Pachuki, for sharing their knowledge and experience with us today. At the bottom of your screen, you will see download materials in a box where you can download our presenters' bios as well as a PDF of today's presentation slides. This webinar has been pre-approved for continuing education hours from NADAC, the Addiction Professionals Association. To qualify for these continuing education hours, you must attend the full webinar, complete a brief quiz, and the webinar evaluation. We'll give you more information on this at the end of today's webinar. This webinar series is hosted by SAMHSA's Recovery to Practice. The overarching goal of this initiative is to improve the knowledge and ability of the behavioral health workforce to use recovery-oriented practices every day. But what do we mean by recovery-oriented practices? In 2011, SAMHSA released a new working definition of recovery and a set of guiding principles that incorporate aspects of recovery from both substance use and mental health conditions. And you can see these on the slide. SAMHSA defines behavioral health recovery as a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. The 10 principles of recovery shown on the slide, along with the 4 major dimensions of recovery, home, health, community, and purpose, together form a solid foundation for developing recovery-oriented lives and for building recovery-oriented services and systems necessary to support those lives. Recovery to Practice offers a set of discipline-based curricula, training materials that promote the understanding and uptake of recovery principles and practices. Developed by the professional disciplines themselves for educating their own membership about recovery and behavioral health, these materials are also adaptable for use by other disciplines and organizations looking for resources to build recovery-oriented workforce. Links to each of these curricula are available on SAMHSA's Recovery to Practice website. And we will certainly be sharing with you that link and encourage you to check out those resources. Recovery to Practice expanding its focus from discipline-focused materials to multidisciplinary services and integrated settings. Those of us who work in behavioral health or integrated care have opportunities every day to promote wellness and recovery. We powerfully communicate hope for recovery and the value of self-care and wellness in just in how we approach our work. Recovery to Practice can help you strengthen your recovery-oriented practice through free webinars such as this one, our quarterly newsletter, and technical assistance opportunities. Today's webinar explores the value of community resources in supporting recovery and how to incorporate recovery supports in personal recovery plans. Previous webinars in this 3-webinar series have been somewhat conceptual. Today, we get more specific and focus on what we as workers can do to integrate community resources into person-centered plans and why this is important for recovery. I'd now like to introduce our speakers for today. Their full bios are in the materials download pod on your screen. First, we'll hear from Anita Jackson. Anita has worked with some of Michigan's largest mental health providers to find innovative ways of assisting people using services. Her focus on sustainability, recovery, and community resources has allowed her to create, revitalize, and preserve innovative programs. Anita has served as a contracts manager for Wayne County, an executive director for housing services, a program director in mental health, a program manager for an area on aging and training development coordinator for emergency services at the University of Michigan Hospital. Following Anita today will be Zebby Fishta. Zebby is a training and development coordinator for Housing Connect, assisting community mental health agencies under the Detroit-Wayne County Mental Health Authority. He is in charge of identifying community resources and working closely with providers serving people with co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders. He helps ensure that the needs of individuals using services are addressed through evidence-based practices combined with maximized community resources for sustainable support. As a licensed clinical therapist, Zebby has worked with people addicted to heroin as well as people experiencing serious mental illness. And our final presenter this afternoon will be Denae Ramos-Pachuki. Denae is an employment and education specialist in the Community Living Services Division at Riverside Community Care in Dedham, Massachusetts. In this and other roles, she has assisted individuals with achieving their career goals since 2003. Her expertise includes career counseling, job coaching, and personal development. Her kind and patient approach, coupled with her extensive knowledge of both employment and education, drive her restless ambition of inspiring others to achieve their goals. Welcome to each of you, and Anita, you may now take it away.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you, SAMHSA, for allowing us to be a part of your great series. Well, hello, everyone. I am excited to be here this afternoon and to share some important key elements in person-centered planning. As recovery happens in community, start with asking the person, what's important in community, and is it a great way to begin the conversation? I would say it is. Having worked in this field for many years, it is proven that it's a personal journey with the help of the community. Discuss their personal journey and their own views of recovery. Talk about resources in the community that the person is currently using. Community members share common interests. It can be cultural, geographical, and a network of family and friends. And as you engage them in the shared vision, it helps to build personal and professional goals. Here's a poll. I'd love to know what you all think. How often are community resources in your community included as part of the assessment process? Wow, 66.6%. That's 0 to 25. 25 to 50% of you say it's about 25% in your community. 31.7, 50 to 75% of you, and about 30% in the 75 to 100%. This was great. It really helps us in understanding some of the community resources that you all have. Here's Joe. Joe is a person that I worked with. Joe is 43 years of age. He was involved in a car accident and he was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. After some rehab services, he started to drink heavily, and that was in order to cope with daily functioning. And he also stopped doing previously enjoyed activities. He was depressed and had some cognitive issues. Before the accident, he was married with 3 children, and he was working as an engineer. After the accident, he was divorced, had lost custody of his children, and had several psychiatric hospitalizations, which included substance use. So I learned of his active involvement with many activities before his accident. I also learned how he spoke passionately about his work. Some goals on his person-centered plan were to decrease his depression and to receive therapy. His plan had no mention at all of his community resources or experiences with other activities. So this slide is the extent of his plan. Now on this slide, Having a role as a part of community is different from being in community. It establishes a sense of belonging with significant relationships with members within the community. It's also a way to share and give back. And it also creates the makeup of a network of supports. And it takes time. So now we're back to Joe. Take a look at this slide. Now for Joe, and like each of us, he's surrounded by a community full of resources. We just don't always think about these resources as part of a person-centered plan, or that using these resources and connecting as members of our communities are essential parts of recovery. So I worked with Joe to explore resources such as the Vocational Resources Center, as he had lost his job. I walked him through the neighborhood to get familiar with it and to meet neighbors. Joe was excited about starting with the Vocational Center and talked about how much he liked meeting new people while walking in his community, while going to the grocery store, and while sitting on his front porch at home. After talking with a friend, Joe joined a nearby church. And then after some time with engaging in these activities, Joe filed a motion and was granted supervised visitation of his 3 children. While he still sees his therapist and psychiatrist regularly, Joe reports being happier and able to pursue a wide range of interests. So this was just a great story, and I use it periodically because it's very helpful just to see a lot of the supports that Joe now has. Let's make a word cloud. Here we have a word exercise for you. What are some one-word community resources in your local community that can be added to Joe's list? The gym. Wow, that's great. Lions Club. Great. The clubhouse. Wonderful. Just great. Volunteers. Clubhouse again. Peer support agency. Great. Wonderful. This is terrific. These are all very interesting. And I see there's a lot of additional community resource that you guys are adding. Moving on to the next slide. With system demands, the focus is sometimes shifted from the needs of the person and placed upon the demands of the system. As staff serve large numbers of people, it makes the individual attention difficult. Behavioral health services are sometimes segregated. Some people talk about the intense services that may not even be a part of their person-centered plan. And as clinicians are not permanent supports, that doesn't mean that people don't want supports for a long time. Why should we integrate community resources? Well, why not? Would you like living without having Tuesdays? Not me. Integrating services breaks barriers to accomplish goals and individuals' day-to-day challenges, and it helps them to have confidence. It allows for great relationships to build with common interests, and the rich set of resources allows for new opportunities to be explored. Community treasures. There are many community treasures here that are out there and that may be unknown to the case manager. Culturally speaking, an Asian person can explore their own resources such as food of choice, local festivals, certain holidays, and other celebrations for their culture. This allows for a good social outlet and provides help within the community if needed. In community, this is also a way to form social connections and to find help and assistance. On this slide, when integrating community resources into a person-centered plan, the community is a perfect place to develop resource-oriented activities. to learn what they were doing in the community that they liked. The community is the ongoing sustainable resources. Learn the importance of the case manager's role as we continue to move on with providing resources for those in the community. Listen to what they're doing in the community and work toward adding that to their PCP. For example, when we think of a person that is in recovery, their point of view is they frequently feel isolated due to the nature of their illness. Integrating them into a community and linking them with community resources is as vital in supporting their recovery as medication and meeting with a case manager or peer support is. These examples include visiting a library or a coffee house, attending an AA meeting if substance use is an issue, attending a drop-in center and making friends, running errands in support of a goal, going to job training, the Social Security office, and many, many more. From this information, it's fundamental to add what's in the community to the pool of resources and to the PCP. I will now turn this presentation over to my colleague, Fabi Fishta. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It is a joy and a pleasure to be speaking with you here today. I have a number of things I want to share with you as I find them very exciting. In a person-centered approach, community is the center of an individual. Most community members share common interests. Using community resources in a person-centered plan provide an excellent crafting tool or a roadmap, so to speak, for designing a recovery-oriented environment when explored through a person-centered approach. On this slide, you can clearly see that Joe is surrounded with connections that are in community. Connections with neighbors, health services, grocery stores, and other identified networks can be explored and included in the individual's PCP. Community connections are the center of an individual's universe. A sense of belonging is ingrained deeply in the community and its members where one's life's activity takes place. Network resources in the community are elements that can significantly improve a person's life. A community is composed of groups of people sharing common interests and are expressed through natural resources that create a sense of place to belong. It is important to use a pictorial map as it gives us an idea of how Joe is spending his time. Here is an example. Resources are already existing assets in communities. Some other community resources include public services such as libraries and other gathering places, community center, and churches. Another large venue of resources in the community are businesses that serve the community by providing jobs and other vocational services and easy access to necessary products. For example, individuals who work to improve community life by helping others, cleaning up the community, or organizing formal or informal community activities are also significant community resources. The key point here is that Joe is the one to point out resources and activities that meet his needs and wants. As you can see it here with Joe, this tool will help an individual with opportunities to meet new people and develop natural support that can result in increased independence. Helping the person stay on task with their social network is vital. The process of this discovery helps individuals identify potential resources that they have available. However, they may not have talked about them or sought them out before. The client can get answers quicker and faster because they are helping problem solve, help themselves too. Identifying community resources can be connected to places that are interesting to them. Community resources are often underused also by clinicians. The current system, as many of you know, often runs on heavy caseloads, making it difficult to explore and utilize community resources, undermining the importance of these rich and meaningful resources. A community is a place where everyone is welcome because they belong there and feel comfortable. This list of community resources includes a rich pool of available services that are independent of the usual segregated behavioral health services. These resources enable the client to become acclimated with their community. This list actually came from a survey in one of our local trainings from about a dozen clinicians or so, case managers, who were asked to write down resources that they knew existed in their local community, and yet they were not fully exploring them with clients for one reason or another. You can do this with your own staff and clinicians, as it may help them learn and recognize the available underused community resources. These underused resources can provide opportunities for reconnecting with social support through the library, bookstore, coffee shops, and other community activities. There could be less reliance on professionals for social interactions and more independence. Social support is needed to help individuals navigate difficult circumstances and provide another perspective on life issues. The discovery of community resources allows for growth on knowledge of sources that could help a client be successful. This approach provides options that may be needed to increase the quality of health. Ultimately, this helps with opportunities for connecting with or reconnecting with many resources. Healthcare providers and availability of health services are a community resource and is very important for people in recovery. This approach keeps people physically and mentally healthy. Teaching and providing the proper health resources in times of need is vital, especially during health crisis. Utilization of local resources such as local gyms or YMCA facilities is extremely helpful as well. Continuously receiving new information and remaining healthy is a key factor for individual success. It is well known that in-depth health care is needed to sustain a physical and emotional well-being. For example, knowledge of clinics within walking distance and a bus line are critical. Enabling a holistic approach to recovery is cutting edge and necessary. Another important point to make here is that health services available are not limited to behavioral health services. For example, when a consumer knows available health services, physical or behavioral, they can be empowered to network with different helping agencies based on their cultural interests and preferences. Naturally, they can develop a personal awareness and realize opportunities in new choices by being able to identify those who are willing to help them in meaningful ways. The health resources can be applied to a wide area of providers as well as specific to a person's health conditions. The cultural preferences vary from person to person. Ultimately, it gives ownership to the individual and their choices in recovery. Workers who work with the person in recovery can help by learning about their surrounding environment and build a bridge, so to speak. This is a necessary bridge as those who work with people in recovery are in position to have a tremendous positive impact by exploring the community through the person-centered plan. The tools for the workers are community resources which promote strength in an individualized way and help individuals feel supported in their life journey. Also, this bridge provides for a vibrant life and it exposes individuals to new growing opportunities. Now, let's look at the staff as connectors. Having a working knowledge of the local resources is vital for staff working with people in recovery. Often, well-meaning clinicians work hard in areas believed by them to be important and can even get out of touch with an individual's preferences in regard to utilizing these community resources, which ultimately result in a more segregated behavioral health services. These resources and knowledge of how to use them can play an important role in an individual's personal recovery. This active process enables and fosters independence and self-sufficiency. It is important for staff to use the current system to actually expand community and person-centered plans, which allows individuals to take ownerships, including discovery and understanding community resources, leading to a self-directed recovery goals through cultural, new friendships, and other social opportunities that are built around natural supports. Staff who assist in helping individuals should be well-rounded in understanding local community resources and working toward their goals. When emphasizing the community resources in person-centered plans, it allows for treating every individual in their own person, completed with their own unique circumstances and experiences. Now we're going to look at some strategies and examples of community first. On this slide over here, the takeaway point is that integrating the community resources in a PCP helps with the staff to see it in a plan and support the person's short and long-term goals. Also, this is supported for all billing purposes as well. And also, this slide has some actual examples of the use of resources in a PCP and the language, the actual language used. Okay. Do you remember Joe? He was hanging out in a treatment center. The caseworker worked with him to maximize community resources with smoking cessation groups, rec center, and etc. He's now, as you can see from the picture there, well-rounded with community resources, and his life is interactive and much richer now. True emotional support takes place in community, even as simple as someone to talk to. Community resource is a tool to seeking and providing an alternative support for recovery. Utilizing the community resources in the person-centered plan strengthens the broader networks of individual responsibilities as the natural support functions are performed by all members involved. Community resources make recovery possible and sustainable. It is vital for the supports in recovery and practice to be independent from isolated, segregated systems. I am going now to turn the floor over to my colleague, Denae Ramos-Pachuki. I can't hear you, Denae.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. My name is Denae Ramos-Pachuki, and I am an employment and education specialist at Riverside Community Care. As an employment and education specialist, I frequently encounter people who are discouraged with the way that their lives may have gone up until this point. So here you see a lot of times we have our own plans in life, and this is how we feel that things should be going, when in actuality, this is more of what the universe typically has in store for a lot of us. So I like to reiterate to people that, you cannot change the past, but you do have some ability to work towards changing your future. So instilling hope is really the key to helping people work towards their goals and towards recovery. So I always like to remind people that they're never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. I work as part of a program, it's a CBFS program, which is a community-based flexible supports program. We focus first and foremost on helping people with their success in the community. So we work to make sure that people have access to the different resources that they're looking for. Essentially, again, these services are designed to be flexible and promote resiliency and recovery for all participants. So when I say flexible, what I mean by that is we meet people where they are at. So we go to people, we meet them in the community. We also, kind of go with the flow. So if somebody, needs to reschedule an appointment or anything like that, we go out of our way to make that happen. We also, again, one of the first things I would like to just chat about is within CBFS, we have two different roles that directly relate to promoting recovery. The first role is that of the resource specialist. So the resource specialist works to connect people to the various resources within the community. So they make it a point to educate themselves on all the different resources that are available, and then they use that information they catalog that information into a database as well as a resource finder that staff and persons served are able to access. We also use that information for staff as well, so the staff are able to access that information. And the resource specialist is able to assist the people that we work with resolving any community-related issues. So whether that be an outstanding bill that they might have, or an issue with Social Security, or if they just want to actually get connected to the community, the resource specialist really helps with that. So if somebody wants to join a social club, or they want to set up a dating profile. I mean, even something as simple as that, they work to help folks do that. The second position within CBFS that I'd like to touch upon is that of the Employment and Education Specialist. So the Employment and Education Specialist work with individuals to help them create personalized, self-identified objectives. So really, it's just based on their goals. What is it that they would like to do? So the Employment and Education Specialist can help with job exploration. So literally going out and learning about jobs, maybe having an informational interview, preparing for jobs. So helping someone practice interview skills, or doing resumes. All of those different aspects help in terms of the job piece. In terms of the education piece, again, same thing, figuring out what school you'd like to go to. How do you pay for that schooling? As well as arranging accommodations, so at school and at work. So really, it's just helping people connect to the resources that are available at the schools, within the community, and getting them to a point where they feel comfortable to then just do that on their own. Right now, I'd just like to take a quick poll to see to see which of the following best describes how you or your organization determine if a person is ready to enroll in school or start work. So what do you folks do to make that happen? So let's just take a look here. All right. This is good. It seems like, for the most part, most of you just ask the person if he or she is ready. That's what it looks like here, which is great, because that is the message that we really want to drive home, is that, the most important person that we're meeting with is the person that we're working with. So, a lot of times assessments and things can help with, determining, certain aspects that somebody might be better at or not so good at, but ultimately, the only person that can determine what he or she can do is the person themselves. So, I know for myself personally, no one ever said to me, hey, Denae, you've got to do this before, jump through all these hoops before you can start working on your goals. I was just given the opportunity to work on my goals. I was just expected to do it. So why should we hold the people that we work to any different type of standard? They should be given the same opportunity to do that. So again, here is actually a list of people who were told that they could not do something, and they have had failures in their lives. So for instance, Oprah Winfrey, she was demoted as a news anchor because she wasn't fit for television. So, I mean, there you go. Oprah Winfrey, hello. So, it's important to remember that, there are a lot of people throughout history that have done things, and I think to show that to the people that we work with, and to show them this actual YouTube video, because it shows that, there are things that, people can do. They just got to be given the chance. So these are some of the personal principles that I've followed over the years. Meet people where they're at, both physically and emotionally. Give people the opportunity to start and stop working with you if need be. Don't make people jump through hoops to work with you. Provide respect, provide education, and make sure that people are doing things for themselves once they get that information. Don't do it for them. It's really important that you help them go through the process and then kind of go from there. So let's just take a look. Here's Mary. Mary would like to build more social connections in the community in order to get out of the house. She's 65 years old. She experiences anxiety and lives with PTSD. She has no family support, unfortunately, and limited computer skills, and she used to play the ukulele. So right now, what I will be doing is I was hoping to kind of check in with you folks and see what would be the first thing that you would do to help Mary. So feel free to just enter that right in your participant chat information and go from there. So, all right. Perfect. Yeah. So it sounds like, you know, a lot of you would ask her about some of her hobbies. Join a choir. Okay. So again, I mean, I think one of the biggest thing is, you know, check with the person. See what it is that they like to do. You know, ask, you know, what are some of your hobbies? What are some of the things you do in the day-to-day? Look around you in the community. What are some things, you know, that are going on? So in Mary's situation, here's what we did. I sat down with Mary. I knew that Mary was interested in the ukulele. And I said, Mary, would you like to find other people that play the ukulele? And, you know, Mary said to me, you know what, I would love that, but where am I going to find people that play the ukulele? And I said, well, Mary, the internet can be really helpful with that. So I sat down with Mary. We went through the computer. I showed her there's a website called meetup.com. Mary and I went on meetup.com, and sure enough, there was a ukulele group close to her home that she was able to participate in. So I said, Mary, would you like me to go with you? Mary said, I would really appreciate it if you went with me, you know, because I'm very anxious. So I went with Mary. We went to the ukulele group. And while she was there, she met someone. They actually hit it off. They exchanged numbers. They went and got coffee. And from that point on, you know, I checked in with Mary a couple of weeks later. I said, oh, there's another ukulele group coming up. Do you want me to go with you? And she said, you know what? No, I'm going with my friends. So that's a perfect example of how Mary was able to use her the resources in her community and not use me anymore. My job is to be unemployed, essentially. Not really, but so again, just looking at this, you know, again, communicate hope. Focus on the future, not the past. You know, give people the opportunity to fail if need be. Sometimes that's how you learn. And ask why not. You know, if there are barriers in place, help them get through those barriers. Again, give everyone a chance and educate. Give people the tools and the information to take that and to do what they need to do. And treat others the way you want to be treated. You know, any one of us at any time in our lives could find ourselves on the other end of having a mental illness, and it's very important that we treat people that we work with respect and that we provide hope. And when someone says, I can't do something, say, why not? And you know what? And help them get through it, and just take it one step at a time. So now I'm going to just turn this back over to Laurie. And thank you very much.
Hi. Oops. Hey, everybody. Debbie, Anita, Denae, that was wonderful. What a skilled and caring group of people you are. We've had some questions come in, and I would like to begin with one of the ones that came in early, and I think, Denae, I'm going to toss this one to you to start, and that is, how are peer specialists engaged or used as resource specialists? Is that a matching role? Can you talk a little bit about the role of peers in that capacity?
Well, within our program, it's separate, but we feel as though all of our offices are right next to each other, so we make sure that is a huge focus. Our peer specialists are going out into the community and doing presentations to the residences, to the other staff members. They're completely and totally engaged in everything that we do, and everybody works together as a team. So it's really a collaborative effort. So they're not segregated or separate. They're actually all right in the same area, and we all work together as a team.
That's wonderful. Anita, a question for you, and can you talk a little bit, some people have asked about how does a large service agency who may not have this on their priority screen help individual practitioners who are really wanting to help individuals build these connections and do more of this community integration work. Any thoughts?
Sure. One key way that organizations or even staff persons, they can start dialoguing within their own organizations, kind of talking like if they're having team meetings or staff meetings, and kind of talk about some of the things that they'd like to do to engage more of what the person is in need of and the service that they're in need of. And that's very important because as people start to talk, organizations, community leaders, they start to listen. And especially large CMHs or mental health authorities, they have a tendency to pay attention when you have large groups of people, even doing something in the evenings where everybody can come and kind of share what they'd like to do. And that can be from a case manager or peer support staff point of view, or that could be from even having some of the persons that you're serving being there as well.
Thanks. Zebby, I'm going to toss you the perennial question, and then I think I'd like Denae to also answer this question. And you were talking about connecting community resources to a person's individual service plan or person-centered plan. How does that connect to billing? In other words, can staff get actually paid to help someone in the community? Can you talk about that connection and how the money part of this might work for your organization?
Yes, thank you, Lori. The need is identified by the client and the goals, and because once the client is a Medicaid recipient, it is a billable service. The key to it is the goals to be clear and to be in that plan. For example, if we were to use Anita's client there earlier, she talked about that individual, basically he lost his kids due to having some difficulties, and he signed up for a recreation center. So a goal for that would be wanting to reconnect with his kids, and the objectives would be engaging in community activities that have to do with children, such as the rec center, coaching, there where it would help him either present it through courts or other venues to get to reconnect with his kids. So once that is on a person on his plan, it is a billable service. It's the same thing as if someone was to go to the doctor and say, I have pain, and the doctor prescribes, says basically run a mile every day and it's going to feel better. Now, it has to be based on what the person can do, because they may not be able to run a mile, but they may be able to walk a quarter mile or what have you. So it's very individualized, and once it's in a plan, it's a reimbursable service through Medicaid.
Okay. And Denae, what about the community resource specialists, or those resource specialists? Are those Medicaid reimbursable positions? How does it work in your organization? You're on mute, Denae.
I apologize. Within my particular program, all of the folks that we work with are funded through the Department of Mental Health. So we unfortunately don't have any Medicaid folks that we're working with. But I think that in terms of the actual funding, it's through the Department of Mental Health. But, same thing that Sebi said in terms of the billing, I think it's just once it comes up on a plan, we integrate it, and that's how we pay for it. I mean, it really just depends on what the person wants. And if I'm working with a rehab specialist and it's not indicated on the plan, and the client calls me randomly and says, hey, I want to do this, it's not and then I go to bill for it, it's not in the plan, then I just tell the rehab advocate, hey, this person recently indicated they want to do this. Can we add it to their plan? So, yeah.
So I believe your state dollars actually do come through Medicaid. They're just not as direct as some other organizations.
Yes, I apologize. Yeah, after
Yeah.
I said it, I realized, but
Also, Lori, for those listeners who wanted in more technical terms, what's happening here is basically there is a diagnosable problem, and there is a treatment plan in place, which, again, you have the diagnostic codes, you have the procedure codes, and those are what make it valid for all technical purposes.
Great. Thank you both for filling in those details, because that is a perennial challenge. People want to do this kind of work and reach out, but it's sometimes hard to figure out how to connect all of that. Anita, a question came in about how do you work with somebody like Joe, who really doesn't have a whole lot of community connection, but also isn't ready. He's not particularly interested in doing something outside the walls of what feels safe and familiar, like his day treatment or a community, service program from the mental health or behavioral health agency. Can you talk about how you might stimulate and inspire and support that readiness and help people think about expanding their connections within their communities?
Sure. One thing, a good way to start is in the dialogue with a person like Joe. What you would do is that, first of all, just kind of talk to him a little bit about maybe when he was younger, some of the things that he did, as he became a teenager, as he became an adult, if he had any hobbies or any activities that he liked to do. In addition, introduce him to some other persons that already have this service on their service plan, and they're already engaging in the community resources. For instance, the clubhouse. The clubhouse is a great way to try to link Joe into this type of environment that he is unfamiliar with. Maybe he doesn't want to do it. He may have done something as simple as playing chess, but that may be something that really can be incorporated into his plan as a part of community resources and become a part of like a chess team, something to that effect. Meeting him where he is very important. So meeting that person where they are, that is key. Because once you meet them where they are and then start exploring some things, if that is going to the coffee house, actually going to the library, different places like that, just so that they may not have even known that they had an interest in reading. So maybe going, when you go to the library, they may have a little reading session. So this may be an opportunity for them to engage and say, I may want to start doing something like this. So that's a great way when you do have a person that is just unclear or unsure if they want to do anything when it relates to the community.
Anita, would you expand on that a little bit? Are those the same ideas, same principles that would relate to youth or young adults in terms of helping connect them? We had a person who's working with youth justice and really kind of wanted to hear some ideas that might be specifically germane to youth. Do you have any thoughts on that?
For sure. That's definitely a great way to engage youth. Because a lot of times you may see youth and they may be totally unclear as to what their vision is, what they want to do in life. And that's a great way to engage youth by just letting them just be a part. They don't have to actually do anything. But you can say, hey, they're having something at the local park today. I'd like to know, would you like to go? I'm going to take a couple other people within our youth group. Would you like to attend? And that's a great way for that person to open up and kind of see if they like it or if they don't. But make sure you offer them multiple things to do. Don't just offer one particular thing. Have a variety of things, especially in the youth realm, because there's so much out there for them. So to be able to kind of just show a lot of different things from a youth perspective is great.
Denae, you want to add to that? Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say that sometimes when you're working with individuals, you might bring something up once and they're not interested, and then you just catch them on a different day and suddenly they are interested. And so you really have to keep revisiting things as well. So if if there's an event, for instance, there's a job fair, and they say, you know what, I don't want to go to this job fair, but then 2 weeks later there's another job fair. Don't automatically not bring it up because they said no the last time. Make sure that you keep bringing things up, because sometimes you just have to catch them on the right day, and then they do it. So.
One of our participants commented in chat, and I think is really germane to what we're talking about here, is that this is also particularly, not always just with youth, but especially with youth, sometimes the importance of having a peer involved in that peer modeling, that peer support, or somebody who's been there and been able to share some of their experience and some of their story can also be an important part of that motivation, that readiness that, yeah, I can do that too, you know?
Yep.
I can.
Absolutely. And with again, within the model that we work within, we have people that are peer specialists. And so personally, I'm not one, but when I work with individuals, I always make sure to offer that to them because I feel like that is huge. To just see somebody who's been there, done that, and can speak from personal experience can really make all the difference sometimes.
Okay. Also to add to that, Lori, is which is on one of those slides, it is important to help them explore available resources in community rather than what we as clinicians think they should engage on. It is their engagement, it is their pursuing one activity or another that is going to stick with them and sustain them in further pursuing their goals.
Thanks, Debbie. That's a really, really important point. Would you, you're a training director, a coordinator, can you talk a little bit about how you train staff to understand these precepts and understand how to do this? It seems to be fairly simple when we just talk about it, but it can be very hard for people to get their heads wrapped around the idea that it shouldn't be, everything we do shouldn't be within inside our agency walls or even delivered by agency staff. How do we expand the thinking outside that? How do you do that as a trainer educator?
Yes, what I do, Lori, is train the ELB case management managers slash clinicians and others to work outside of those four walls. Everything happens out there in community. Once a person comes in our office, number one, they're conditioned to perform in certain ways because the authority figure, they're out of their comfort zone, and it's hard to truly engage and create that bonding relationship which Anita and Denae were speaking of a few minutes ago, especially with youth. So it is rather a service that takes place in community to begin with, and we have that. We have those options to do so. So we are seeing, at least in our local community, through our trainings and development, that our clinicians are asked to go out in community. They're asked to do home visits. You don't have to meet the client in your office. You can meet them at a coffee shop even, or the library, and even at the gym and so forth. So it is that engagement out in community that fosters more independence and that shoulder-to-shoulder work rather than looking at it from up-down from a clinician's point of view. So hopefully that answers your question.
That's very, very helpful. Another question that I'd like to, we've got a little bit of time here, and I'm going to ask you, Denae, can you talk a little bit about how you've addressed some of the practical barriers that are there for helping connect people with community resources and build these community connections? You know, transportation, sometimes I may have had a criminal history, money. How do you work with some of those real practical issues and logistics?
I think exploring the solutions with the person themselves. So, you know, if it's a transportation issue and they're not sure how to take public transportation, literally get on the bus with them and help them do that. Or if that's not within your role, see if there's someone that can help you do that, or another person you can outsource to help with that. There's some actual agencies that help with travel training. In addition, I think, again, searching the web for answers, going to trainings with the person, educating yourself. If there's a quarry issue, contact your local agency that deals with quarries and how to go about sailing a quarry. So literally just explore the process with them and help come to the conclusion.
Denae, what's a quarry?
It's a criminal record, essentially. It's a database that it keeps track of anyone that has ever been in court at any point in time. And a lot of times that can come up on someone's record, especially when it comes to looking for housing or a job.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great.
Lori, if I may add to that also at the systems level, a part of my day-to-day job is to engage different community mental health agencies so they all come to the table. We do either monthly or quarterly meetings on different topics where many, again, clinicians, case managers meet, they share these resources. We've had outside speakers come in to Denae's point there. We've had attorneys helping clinicians learn how to conduct expunge process for those who qualify for that, and many, many other topics in order, because we can only help them explore what's out there if we know it ourselves. Otherwise, it's somewhat more difficult. So those are some of the things that we're doing locally at the systems level.
And that has been very successful here in Michigan. So it's been very great for us to be able to do that and have partners come together to try to work on those records and whatnot for housing as well as employment.
That's great. And I really love the exercise that you shared, Zebi, about the brainstorm with a team and generating this long list, because I think we tend to forget what really is out there. We kind of put our blinders on about what we offer as an organization, and we forget the richness that's in our communities. I know both of you, all of you, as speakers today actually represent sizable communities. Denae, you're outside Boston. Zebi and Anita, you're in the Detroit area. I do want to underscore before we do close off here that this points that we're making, you're making, are just as relevant, perhaps even more relevant for rural communities. Often in rural areas we feel like we don't have many resources. Well, sometimes we don't have a lot of institutions and organizations and funded kinds of things. But in rural areas we are exceptionally rich in people. We're exceptionally rich in a lot of the kinds of resources that, Anita, you showed on Joe when he had that resource necklace surrounded by resources. So those of us on the call who are in rural communities, this is even more important for us to be thinking about creatively and how we reach out and connect into the fabric of the communities of the people we serve. So I want to take this moment to thank all three of you for wonderful presentations. I really enjoyed this discussion that we've been able to have, and I want to point out to folks that if you want to follow up with Zebi or Anita or Denae, please feel free to do so. They would be delighted to hear from you, as would we at Recovery to Practice, and our email address for Recovery to Practice is also on your slide. This particular webinar does conclude our 3-webinar series on the role of communities in recovery, but we're not done. Keep your eye out because next week we actually have another webinar on a different topic on diverse families and the cultural formulation interview. Shaku Mathai of the NAMI Star Center will be our guest host, and we are really looking forward to this webinar. We think it will be rich and wonderful for all of us. Later in the summer, we will be having a 3-webinar series on shared decision-making in behavioral health, and we're having a lot of fun putting that together. So invite you all to participate with us on that. And then late in the summer, early in the fall, we will be doing a webinar on psychiatric advanced directives. So with that, thank you all. If you are interested in NADAC continuing education hours, please click the box on the screen for your NADAC CEH, take the quiz, and you will receive your certificate. If you are not interested in NADAC, you can also get your certificate for participation in the materials download box below. And please note that this will, at the end of our webinar, automatically a survey will pop up on your screen. We do value your feedback and appreciate your sharing your comments with us today. And with that, we will conclude today's webinar, and thank you, everyone. We hope to see you back here next week. Goodbye and have a great afternoon.